All right, so now, let's see, 53 to 60, the law of cosines. So let me call this the law of cosines. Okay, one thing we know, we remember the Pythagorean theorem. Remember, c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, right? That was the Pythagorean theorem. And we know that the sides are A, B, C. C is the biggest side. Now, there's going to be a change. The law of cosines, we're going to use this. It's just that the Pythagorean theorem only works when the biggest angle is 90 degrees. But what if it's not 90 degrees? What if it's any other triangle? So we're going to modify this a little bit. We're going to say that c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times cosine of c. Now, we don't include this last part. Let me highlight it. We don't include this last part when we're dealing with Pythagorean theorem, because since cosine of 90 degrees is 0, this whole thing cancels out. It is there, but we don't mention it in Pythagorean theorem because cosine of 90 is 0. So again, it cancels all that. But what if it's not 90 degrees? What if it doesn't cancel out? Now, what if I'm not solving for side C? What if I'm solving for side A? We're going to use a squared. It's equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times cosine of a. I'm going to give you guys 3 formulas. The other formula is going to be b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2 times a times c times cosine of angle B. Now, so the way we're going to know which one of the 3 formulas to use is depending on the angle given. If I have angle C, use the first formula. If I have angle B, use the last formula. If I have angle A, use the second formula. Again, depending on the angle given for the law of cosines. So let's take a look. Make sure you have these formulas down, right? During the work, I'm just going to say according to our formulas, but I'm referring to these formulas, okay? So let's take a look. Here I have angle C. So I'm going to use the first formula, right? The one that has angle C. I'm asking you to solve for side AB. See, this is side AB, which is the one we usually call side C. So I'm going to write this as C squared. Let me just copy the formula. I'm just going to copy this one time. I know c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times cosine of c. So I'm going to say c squared is equal to, let me label this side a, let me label this side b. So c squared is equal to 27 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 27 times 30 times cosine of 101. You guys might be looking at this whole thing like, whoa, that's a lot. Well, good thing we have a calculator. I'm just going to type all that. So let me grab my calculator. Make sure you have it on degrees. I don't need second. I was using it for yesterday's work. So let's see, I'm going to go 27 squared plus 30 squared. So plus 30 Notice how I'm using that square there. Minus 2 times 27 times 30 times cosine of 101. And boom, it gives me 1938.1105. Now I'm not quite done yet, so I'm going to use 4 decimal places. So 1938. So let me come back to my work here. So c squared is 1,938.1106. Okay, now I need to solve for c, right? Think about it. How can I undo a square? I know addition, subtraction undo each other. Multiplication, division undo each other. Now exponents and roots. So that means I'm gonna do the square root. I'm gonna undo the exponent. So let me find out that c is gonna be the square root of 1,938.1106. All right, so let me grab my calculator out. I'm gonna say the square root 1,938.1106. I know my instruction says round it to the nearest tenth. So 1 decimal place. So 44.0, right? That second 2 is too small, so it does nothing to my 0. So 44.0. If you just write 44, the 0.0 is optional. 0.0 is optional. Point anything else is not. So okay, can do that. Now here, I'm asking you to find AC, which is this side, which we usually call side B, right? It's opposite from angle B. I have side A and I have side C, and I have angle B. So from the formulas, I'm going to use the one that has angle B. Let me write this again, just this last time. So I'm going to do B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times cosine of angle B. So I have B squared is equal to 24 squared plus 26 squared minus 2 times 24 times 26 times cosine of 134. All right, I have to type all that in. So 24 squared plus 26 squared minus 2 times 24 times 26 times cosine of 134. Not quite done, so round it to 4 decimal places. 2,118.9336. So 2,118. So let's see here. 0.9336. So B will be the square root of that. So let's see, let me clear this out. The square root of 2,118.9336 46.03 rounded to one decimal place, so 46.0. Okay, let's take a look at 55. I have side C, I have side A. I'm asking you to solve for side B, right? That's the side AC. So I'm going to write B squared equals 27.9 squared plus 21.9 squared minus 2 times 27.9 times 21.9 times cosine of 90.7. Right. B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times cosine of angle B. B squared equals, all right, let me type all that in. So I'm gonna go 27.9 squared plus 21.9 squared minus 2 times 27.9 times 21.9 times cosine of 90.7. Oh, geez, doesn't let me write anymore. Okay, so I guess it reached its maximum here. So, all right. So let me just do 27.9 squared plus 21.9 squared. Let me press equal minus 2 times 27.9 times 21.9 times cosine of 90.7. Okay, 1,272. Let's see. 1,272 point, what was it? 94.94. Before I continue, right? The whole thing didn't fit. So if you notice, I did this squared, press equal, it gave me a decimal, and then I type in the rest. So if your calculator doesn't let you type in the whole thing, type it in parts. Do the plus first at 27.9 squared plus 21.9 squared equals, and then continue. All right, so now let me get the square root on each side. All right, so let me grab my calculator here. So I'm gonna do the square root of 1272.9494. 35.67. Oh, okay, so now this one is not 35.0, 35.67. So rounded to one decimal place, I'm gonna call this 35.7. So now the decimal is not optional. 35.7. Oof, let's take a look at 56. All right, so I have side B, I have angle C, and I have side A. And I'm asking you to solve for AB, which is side C. So I'm asking you to solve for side C. So I'm going to use the first rule. So C squared equals 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7 times cosine of 92. So 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7. Oops. So 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7 times cosine of 92. So 134.3973. So 134.3973. So C is going to be the square root of that. One hundred and 3973. Oh, so 11.59, I'm going to call that 11.6. Now let's let's bring up the challenge a little bit. Solving for an angle. Okay. Now I'm asking you to solve for angle A, but we have angle C. Now we have to do one thing before this. Because I have angle C, I'm going to use the formula C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times cosine of C. Okay, because I have angle C. So, okay, first thing I want to do is I'm going to solve for angle C. I mean, for side C. Okay, so I have C squared, right? I have side A, I have side B. So let me just type it in my calculator, right? I'm just going to hear what I have to type. So C squared is equal to 8.9 squared plus 28.3 squared. I don't think it's going to let me type in the whole thing, so I already may go equals minus 2 times 8.9 times 28.3 times cosine of 44.4. So I'm going to say C squared is 520.1915. 520.1915. So C is equal to the square root of that. Hmm, 22. I'm not quite done yet. So let me go 4 decimal places. 22.8077. It was 22.8077. Okay, so I have angle C. I have side C is 22.8077. Okay, I'm not quite done yet. I was asking to solve for angle A. For the law of cosines, when I'm asking you to solve for an angle, you're going to use the law of cosines to find a side. Once you find the side, you're going to move into the law of sines. Let me use here. Remember, for the law of sine, I'm going to go sine of A, because I'm solving for angle A. So sine of A over 8.9 is equal to sine of 44.4 over 22.8077. Sine of A over side A equals sine of C over side C. Every time you have an angle on the opposite side, you're going to move into the law of sines. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8.9. Make sure you have that parentheses. So I'm going to have that sine of A. All right, so let me grab my calculator out. Is sine of 44.4 times 8.9 divided by 22.8077. Oh man. There you go. It's equal to 0.2730. On my last step, angle A is the sine inverse of 0.2730. So sine inverse of 0.2730. So 15.84. 15.8. All right, let's take a look at 58. Oops. So I have side A, side B, and angle C. So because I have angle C, I'm going to use C squared is equal to 21 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times 21 times 29 times cosine of 109. Okay, so I have to type that in. So 21 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times 21 times 29 times cosine of 109. So 1,678. Let's see, 678.5420. Let me do the square root of that. Need 78.5420. So I wanted to say that C is equal to 40.9700. So 40.97. The 00 I don't have to do, so I'm gonna say this side is 40.97. Now, because I have side C and angle C, I'm gonna use the law of sines. I'm gonna say sine of angle A over 21, which is side A, equals sine of 109 over 40.97. Let me extend this rule. I have to multiply both sides by 21. Don't forget your parentheses on this sign. So I'm going to get the sine of A, going to be sine of 109 times 21 divided by 40.97. Okay, so let's take a look. Sine of 109 times 21 divided by 40.97. So 0.4846. So angle A is the sine inverse of 0.4846, which is equal to sine inverse of 0.4846, 28.98. So the 8 pushes the 9 pushes the 8, so 29.0. Okay, let's take a look at the last two examples. Okay, so let's do, I have side A, I have side C, and angle B. So I know this is side B. Because I have angle B, I'm going to use B squared. It's equal to A squared times C squared. And A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times cosine of angle B. So B squared is equal to 18 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 18 times 13 times cosine of 117. erase this. Okay. All right, so let's go to a calculator. So 18 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 18 times 13 times cosine of 117. So that's what, 705.4676. Or is it 705.4676? B is the square root of that. Mm, 26.5606. Okay, so that's side B, right? So 26.5606. That's this side. Now I'm able to solve for angle A. Angle C, I'm just gonna say sine C over 13 is equal to sine of 1/17 over 26.5606. And I know I'm gonna multiply by 13. So sine of angle C. So remember, sine of 117 times 13 divided by 26.5606. Okay, so sine of 117. Don't forget to close your parentheses. Times 13 divided by 26.5606. So 4361. Okay. So sine of C is equal to 0.4361. So angle C is sine inverse of 0.4361, which is equal to, let me do second, sine inverse of 0.4361. $25.85. So the 5 pushes the 8 over, so 25.9. All right, last example here. Okay, so I have side A, side B, and side C. And I want to know what's angle A. Okay, so don't have an angle, but I'm asking for angle A. So I'm going to use a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2 times a times b. Times 2 times b times c times cosine of a. Ooh, this is going to be a little challenging. So I'm just going to move this over. So let me just say a squared. Let me play with this formula first. A squared minus b squared minus c squared is equal to negative 2bc times cosine of a. Because I'm going to play with this formula a little. Let me divide by a negative 2bc. So I have that a squared minus b squared minus c squared over a negative 2 times b times c is equal to cosine of a. Okay. So remember this a squared minus b squared minus c squared. I know what a, b, and c are, so I'm just going to go ahead and type it in already. So I'm going to use my calculator here. So I remember the top part was a squared minus b squared minus c squared. So I have 13 squared minus 16 squared minus 18 squared. I'm press equal, right? That was just the top, a squared minus b squared minus c squared. Let me divide this. Okay, let me put the bottom button inside a parenthesis. So I have a negative 2 times 16 times 18. So it gives me what? 0.7135. So 0.7135 is equal to cosine A. So I just went a squared minus b squared minus c squared divided by a negative 2 times b times c. Notice how when I typed it in, boom, I did an equal sign there first. Then when I did divide it, I used parentheses for the bottom. Now for angle A, I'm going to say it's cosine inverse of 0.7135. Let me use my calculator real quick here. I have to use cosine inverse of 0.7135, 44.47. So it's 44.5. So there'll be cases when you don't have an angle, so just go straight with the formula. You might have to play with it a little. And like always, if you need help, let me know.